My life turned upside down the shocking night I lost everything, and found my true self again. I will never forget the silence right before it all shattered. The kind of silence that pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe. I stood there, frozen, heart pounding in my ears like an ominous drum. My hands trembled, and my palms were slick with sweat. The night was heavy with darkness, a black canvas splattered with the occasional flicker of street lamps. I could feel the chill creep beneath my skin as I waited for him. Daniel. My brother, my best friend. The one I confided in about everything, the one who promised to always have my back. He was late, and my gut twisted with an uneasy dread. Hours passed, swallowed by an anxious ticking clock. The shadows danced across the walls, each one telling a story of uncertainty. I went to the window, peering out at the street below. A figure emerged from the cobblestones. It wasn't Daniel. My heart sank. A wave of despair washed over me, dragging me deeper into an ocean of worries. Then I heard it, the sirens. A wailing cry cut through the stillness, sending shivers down my spine. My skin prickled with fear. I rushed outside, the cool air slapping my face, grounding me just enough. I stumbled towards the noise, panic slamming against my ribcage. My heart raced faster as I approached the small crowd gathering near the corner. Whispers curled around me like a thick fog, dense and suffocating. He was just walking home. I heard the crash. Each fragment laced with horror. My breath caught in my throat. I pushed through the people, desperate to see. What I found stole the air from my lungs. A mass of twisted metal and shattered glass. The wreckage of Daniel's car, crumpled like a soda can. My legs went weak. I tried to scream, but all that escaped was a choked gasp. Panic gripped me as the reality unfurled before my eyes. I didn't know if he was alive or gone. A paramedic rushed past me, urgency painted on their face. I reached out, fingers grazing their sleeve. Is he? My voice broke. The noise around me faded into a dull thrum. Every second felt like a lifetime. They pushed me back. I was an outsider in a nightmare. My world was dissolving around me, and I was powerless. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. It was as if time stood still, while my insides twisted with anxiety. What if I never saw him again? What if everything changed forever? Then, just as suddenly as it began, a surge of emotion washed over me, hot and fierce. I wasn't ready to give up. Not now. Daniel needed me. The raw urgency clawed at my chest, forcing me to fight against the chaos swirling in my mind, and then, amidst the chaos, it hit me. I had no choice but to confront whatever came next. I was shaking, tears streaming down my face, but there was a flicker of steel forming in my heart. The ground beneath me felt unstable, but I needed to be strong. To face the unknown that I in that instant, deep down inside, I knew everything was changing. But how? And at what cost? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The hours crept by, dragging me deeper into a whirlpool of dread. I stood alone against the flickering lights of the ambulance, the world around me a blur of faces filled with concern and sorrow. I could barely register the sounds, distant voices murmuring, the crackle of radio dispatches, the cacophony of city life continuing around this frozen moment in time. Each second stretched painfully, a taut string ready to snap that I needed to know about Daniel. Each quickening heartbeat echoed the thought in my mind, becoming a mantra of desperation. Would he smile at me with that easygoing laugh once more, or would I be left searching for him in a void that couldn't be filled? Just as the wave of confusion threatened to pull me under, a woman stepped forward from the crowd, her face familiar yet unrecognizable in this storm of emotions that it was Mrs. Thompson, our neighbor. Her kind eyes, usually bright with warmth, now held a sadness that mirrored my own. She reached out, grasping my arm with a gentleness that shattered my resolve, breaking down the walls I'd built around my heart. "Honey, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice wavering. "Hesha's going to be okay. They're doing everything they can." Those words felt like a weight pressing down on my ribcage. I wanted to believe her, to let that flicker of hope ignite into a flame, but fear gripped me, cold and relentless. "How do you know that?" I whispered, my voice raw. "I saw him being loaded into the ambulance. It was chaotic, but he was breathing, sweetheart." "He's a fighter," she replied, squeezing my hand as if her strength could bolster my wavering spirit. Those simple words unfurled something deep within me, a thread of resolve brewing amidst the uncertainty that in the midst of her comfort, I felt an itch of resentment bubble within me at the situation, at the world, at Daniel, as if he had the power to control fate. How selfish of me. I quickly pushed the thought aside as guilt washed over me. He was my brother, facing a battle I couldn't even fathom, while I stood here mired in self-pity. As more time dragged on, I found myself wandering, pulled by the gravity of my own thoughts. I stumbled into a nearby cafe, its windows blurred with condensation from the cold night air. The smell of coffee wrapped around me, a warm embrace oddly comforting in its familiarity. But when I sat inside, all I could think about was this: my brother might be fighting for his life just a block away, and here I was, indulging in the mundane. "Can I get you anything?" the barista asked, her cheery voice echoing absurdly in the heaviness of my heart. "No. I can't," I managed to say, swallowing hard as I fought the wave of emotion crashing down around me. "Do you want to sit down?" she offered, her voice softening. The small kindness held me for just a moment, a fragile buoy in a storm. I nodded dimly and sank into a chair, allowing the faint sounds of laughter and conversation to wash over me. I glanced around at strangers living their lives, immersed in the ordinary, while mine had spiraled into chaos. That I pulled out my phone, staring at the screen for a moment, hesitant. My fingers traced over Daniel's picture, a snapshot of us laughing at a silly inside joke. The reality struck, one moment of joy eclipsed by an abyss of uncertainty. But rather than sinking deeper, I began to type a message to him, something I hadn't shared yet, envisioning it reaching him somehow. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Fight, Daniel." As I hit send, my heart pounded violently against my ribcage. Just then, my phone rang. My breath caught in my throat as I realized it was Mom. I answered, desperation lacing my voice as I said, "What's going on?" "Is he okay? Get to the hospital, now," she said, her tone clipped, urgent. "Daniel's in surgery. There were complications." The world spun around me as I processed her words. I lost track of anything but the pounding in my ears. I dropped my phone in shock as panic clawed at my chest. "Complications?" I echoed aloud, disbelief seeping into my veins. That I ran from the cafe, lungs burning as I forced each step toward the hospital. "Don't break down now." I couldn't. Not after making that promise to my brother. I didn't know what awaited me, but I knew this time, I must stand strong, not just for him, but for myself. As I reached the hospital entrance, the fluorescent light stung my eyes, cold and unyielding. I stumbled inside, heart racing anew with dread. Just as I approached the counter, the door swung open, revealing a figure whose presence stopped me cold. It was a police officer, a solemn expression etched across his face. "Are you family of Daniel Hastings?" he asked, voice deep and steady but laced with an undertone of foreboding. I felt my breath hitch, a fresh wave of fear crashing over me. "Yes, I'm his sister." What's wrong?" "Please come with me," he said, and every part of me knew that something had shifted again, the ground beneath my feet trembling. With the officer leading me down the sterile, fluorescent corridors, I could feel my heart thundering against my ribs, dread weighing heavy in my stomach. What lay ahead? Every mental whisper screamed of uncertainty, dragging me deeper into the abyss. But somewhere within that darkened tide, I buried under the weight of fear, the small ember of hope flickered again, refusing to be extinguished. What if fighting through the storm of chaos was the only way to find the light? But would it be enough? Would I have the strength to face whatever truth awaited me around the next corner? The officer led me through the stark halls filled with the hushed murmurs of concern, each turn feeling like a countdown to something I knew I wasn't ready to face. My legs felt like lead weights, every step a reminder of the chasm that had opened between my ordinary life and this fraught reality. As we neared a set of doors marked surgery, I could hear the mechanical beeping of machines, underscoring the heart-wrenching silence that enveloped us. "Please wait here," he instructed, gesturing toward a set of chairs lined against the wall. I nodded, though my heartbeat thundered in my ears as he turned away, leaving me in that sterile space that smelled of antiseptic and despair. I sank into the nearest chair, letting my hands clasp tightly in my lap to stave off the trembling that threatened to break free. The fluorescent lights above flickered intermittently, mirroring my chaotic thoughts. I stared blankly at the floor, fighting against the tide of emotions threatening to pull me under. My mind raced back to Daniel, to the laughter that used to echo throughout our home, the shared dreams, and promises filled with bright tomorrows. Each moment felt like an eternity, and the uncertainty knotted in my stomach, much like the first day of school I had dreaded in childhood. But this wasn't just fear of the unknown, it was rooted in the agony of potential loss of a brother, a confidant, a lifeline. Minutes turned into an endless blur, and all I could do was focus on breathing, trying to ground myself by grasping the familiar whispers of his joking tone, his relentless optimism. Just then, as I sat stuck in my worries, a woman a few chairs down caught my eye, her own face etched with worry. With disheveled hair and dark circles beneath her eyes, I recognized her as the sister of one of Daniel's best friends. The threads of our lives were woven together by a shared love for the boys in our lives, and in that moment, I felt an unexpected kinship. "That is it, Daniel, you're waiting for?" she asked, her voice breaking with cautious hope. That I nodded, gratitude flooding me at her attempt to reach out despite her own evident distress. "Yes, he was in an accident. He's in surgery now." Her eyes filled with compassion, and she leaned closer, sharing the kindness of familiarity. "I know how that feels. We're all praying for them. I hope he makes it through this." A small flash of comfort ignited within me, a shared understanding in a time of desolation. "Thank you," I murmured, letting a timid smile spill onto my face even amidst the shadows, but even the brief connection couldn't shield me from the uncertainty still looming. The weight on my chest grew heavier again as the silence returned, thickening the air around me. A hospital staff member brushed past, a steely glimmer in her eyes, and I couldn't help but wonder what news would follow. Every agonizing tick of the clock reverberated in my mind, and I squeezed my hands together tighter, praying for the strength to endure whatever awaited. Eventually, the double doors swung open, and a doctor stepped through, his expression both grave and intent. My heart dropped as my eyes found his. "Are you family of Daniel Hastings?" he asked, his gaze unwavering. "Yes. I'm his sister." I blurted, rising to meet him, but my legs trembled, ready to collapse beneath me. His face softened, revealing years of experience etched within. "He made it through surgery, but there were significant complications. We were able to stabilize him, but he'll require extensive recovery, and there are several risks we need to discuss. Would you like to step into my office?" The doctor's words hit me like a ton of bricks. I opened my mouth, ready to parry with a wave of questions, but my voice caught confusion swirling with relief and dread. "What do you mean risks? Walk with me," he said gently, gesturing down the corridor. I followed, feeling as if the world was spiraling out of control once again. That I in his office, the walls felt like they were closing in, the weight of the conversation loomed larger with each moment. I could sense fear creeping back in, clawing at my heart, but as the doctor began to explain the complexities surrounding Daniel's injuries, I felt something stir within me, a resolve, a glimmer of fierce protectiveness igniting. Once seated, he detailed Daniel's prognosis, speaking about his physical limitations, the possible long-term impacts, but also the glimmer of hope within each phrase. I clung to the brighter aspects he shared, allowing the mix of fear and hope to intertwine in my heart like threads of a tapestry. Just when I thought I could catch my breath, the doctor posed a question that ricocheted off the walls and into my mind, rattling my steely resolve. Daniel had a pre-existing condition, unknown to us. I need to ask, in light of this, was there ever a conversation between you two about family medical history? The question hung heavy in the air, and I felt my stomach knot, confusion waging war with my instinct to protect him. Family medical history. Had we taken our health for granted? Did I know something that could have changed the course of this night? Each fluttering heartbeat echoed the enormity of the moment as I leaned further into the conversation, every part of me grappling with the implications of those words that I don't know, I stammered, grasping at fleeting memories that felt just beyond reach. For a moment, the enormity of the unknown loomed over me. This wasn't just about Daniel's survival anymore, it was about understanding the depths of our fragility. Determined to push through the rising tide of uncertainty, I hardened my resolve to seek the truth, to piece together the fragments of our past that might illuminate our future. His life hung precariously in the balance, and all I could do was stand firm in that resolute promise to fight alongside him. But as I emerged from the doctor's office, stepping back into the corridor feeling like the walls were closing and yet again I knew I faced a new battle, I had to confront not only the immediate struggles ahead but the deeper shadows cast by secrets now resurfaced. What else lay buried beneath the surface? And could I handle whatever darkness awaited at the end of that arduous journey? The fluorescent lights above hummed with a relentless and irritating buzz as I walked back toward the waiting area, my mind in disarray. Each step I took felt heavier, burdened by the knowledge that a vital piece of our family puzzle might have been obscured for far too long. Daniel's life felt like a fragile ornament on the precarious edge of a shelf, vulnerable and ready to shatter at a moment's notice. I couldn't let that happen, but the truth I had unearthed in the doctor's office clawed at me. Pre-existing conditions. Family medical history. The edges of my memory frayed as I tried desperately to remember conversations or even whispers shared during family dinners. It was like recalling dreams that faded the moment I awoke. I had to uncover what was hidden, I had to protect him. As I sank back into the chair beside the sister of Daniel's friend, I felt a flicker of warmth. She offered a tentative smile, sensing the turmoil within me. This stranger was holding space for my anxiety, and in that moment, her presence became a small beacon of solidarity amidst the chaos. Is he okay? She asked softly, her voice laced with concern. I took a deep breath, fighting to compose myself. He made it through surgery, but there are complications. I need to figure out more about us, our family history. My words felt thin, coated in desperation. It sounds so scary, she said, her voice wrapping around me like a shroud. But doctors are amazing nowadays. He's strong. I studied her face, searching for sincerity, and found it there, a flame of hope mingled with fear. It was refreshing and reminded me, however briefly, that life still offered small moments of grace, even here in this sterile room wrought with uncertainty. I leaned back in the chair, allowing the slightest bit of hope to wash over me. Maybe Daniel was strong. Maybe we would see him through this. The bond we shared over the years, our childhood laughter, his desire to protect me, our shared dreams sparked a fierce determination in my heart. Have you spoken to your brother's family? She asked, breaking through my thoughts. Maybe they could help. They might have records or know something. Her suggestion sparked the fire within me, and without a second thought, I dug my phone from my pocket. My hands trembled slightly as I navigated to the contact list, fingers hovering over the entry for my parents before glancing back at her. You're right. Maybe that's exactly what I need to do. As I pushed the call button, I felt the apprehension coil tightly around my heart. My mother's voice, soft and steady, filled my ear. Hello, Mom, it's me. I need to talk to you about Daniel. I felt a shiver run down my spine, knowing the weight of what I was about to uncover. Can we go over our family medical history? It's important. Of course, honey. Is he okay? My mother's voice cracked slightly, the worry palpable. He's in recovery, but there are complications, and I hesitated, the words choked by the disdainfully hollow air. I need to know what we can uncover. Please, can you meet me? Absolutely, well be right there, she replied, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. As I hung up, the warmth of purpose flooded through me. I wasn't alone in this struggle. Together, we could confront whatever lay ahead, whatever darkness lurked behind the shadows of our past. I looked to the woman beside me, her concern evident, and offered a small smile. Thank you for your support. I really needed it. Of course, she responded, her voice sincere. We're all in this together, right? Right. In that small moment of camaraderie, a fragile hope blossomed. Yet paradoxically, just as I felt that warmth, a drip of dread slithered into my thoughts. The heavier the knowledge of Daniel's situation loomed, the greater the stakes. Each heartbeat seemed to echo with questions still unrevealed, shadows that danced just beyond my reach, but before I could dwell on them, the double doors swung open once more, and two figures stepped through me. Parents, their faces etched with anxiety and determination. A scream of relief washed through me, yet as they approached, I noticed a wary expression on my mother's face, a flicker of something unsaid lingering in her eyes. Let's talk, I said, gesturing toward an empty consult room off to the side. The echo of my own uncertainty ricocheted back as we moved, shadows threading their way through what should have been comforting embraces. But the air thickened with unspoken words, hearts aching under the weight of memories too close to the surface. Once inside, I met my mother's eyes. I want to know everything, I stated, my voice thick with trepidation. There are questions about our genetics, family history. Daniel needs us to dig deeper. I could see her swallow hard, the reminder that some truths remain buried yet clawed at her own resolve. She glanced toward my father, shoulders tense with the shared weight of the past. And in that instant, the air became electric, as if the very foundation of our family reality threatened to tremble beneath us. My father finally spoke, his voice strained. There are things we should have told you, secrets that could change everything. Just as a shiver ran down my spine, I felt my breath hitch. The weight of those words spiraled around us as the knowledge that we were standing on the precipice of revelations untold engulfed the room. What were those secrets? How deep did the fractures in our family go? Just then, the familiar sound of beeping machines faded from my consciousness, and all I could think about was the storm that lay ahead, where truths emerged like the fury of a thunderous sky. My heart thundered in my chest, and I suddenly understood this was no longer just about Daniel. It was about confronting the very fabric of our family, and I steeled myself for whatever awaited behind the door of revelation. The sterile walls of the consult room started to close in, each breath feeling heavier than the last. I searched my parents' faces for clarity, hoping against hope that they would quell the rising tempest of fear within me. But instead, I found a depth of sorrow that eclipsed everything I had anticipated. Their shared gaze was an unspoken acknowledgement of past torments, of choices made in shadow, and of the emotional scars they had chosen not to expose. What secrets? My voice came out sharper than intended, cracking under the weight of my mounting anxiety. What could be more serious than what's happening with Daniel? My father ran a shaky hand through his hair. It's complicated, and it's painful. There are things about our family that you need to understand, but I don't want to burden you with this right now. His attempt at a protective shield only stoked the flames of my anger. Burden me? I echoed incredulously. Don't you see? This is about Daniel's life. I need to know everything. We need to know everything. My mother placed a soothing hand on my arm, her touch almost sending a jolt of warmth through the cold atmosphere. Sweetheart, there are family health conditions, complications from hereditary ailments that we've avoided discussing for years. Her voice trembled, the facade of a calm mother fraying rapidly, exposing the raw nerves beneath. We thought we were shielding you from fear, but the truth is we might have been protecting ourselves more. What are you talking about? I asked, my heart pounding. Fear was now laced with urgency, and an impending dread loomed larger than Daniel's surgery. Please, I need clarity. My father took a moment, breathing deeply, as if trying to draw courage from the air around him. Your grandfather had medical issues that we believed were isolated, that they wouldn't affect future generations. But now, with Daniel's situation, we can't ignore it any longer. Each word fell as heavy as rocks, each detail building a wall between what I thought I knew about my family and what lay hidden, aching to break free. Anguish washed over me. How could they have withheld this? The very thought of secrets festering unspoken made my stomach tighten. Does everyone in the family know? I pressed, desperate for any semblance of hope amidst this stark revelation. It's been kept quiet, my mother replied, her eyes filled with shame and regret. We didn't want you to worry. We thought we were protecting our family, keeping things together. Coffee brewed nearby, the bitter smell infiltrating the sterile space, reminding me of family gatherings full of laughter, a stark contrast to the memories I was now scrambling to reconcile with this new reality. So you let me believe that our genetics were fine. You let me dream in ignorance while my brother's life hangs in the balance. Tears prickled at the corners of my eyes, toying with my resolve. But the fire within burned too brightly for them to find escape just yet. I staggered back slightly, my hand pressed against the cold steel of the examination table, searching for balance in an upside-down world. Your Uncle Sergei, he had severe heart problems that were never discussed until it was nearly too late, my father continued, voice thick with emotion. And those problems could very well present themselves in any of us. We didn't know how to tell you, not when we were all trying so hard simply to survive. My heart raced as anger warred with fear. Survive what? The lies? You thought silence would protect us when it has done nothing but place a shroud of uncertainty over everything. My voice barely broke above a whisper, almost lost in the sudden realization of my betrayal, not just of Daniel, but of myself. The truth had been unfurling in front of me all along, and I had ignored the signs in favor of believing everything was fine. But now, I understood the implications were much larger than I ever imagined. Please, my mother urged softly, tears cascading down her cheeks. If we had known the consequences before, we would have acted differently. The words hung suspended in the air, cloaked in the shame of their confession. My heart cracked a little more, recognizing their pain while needing clarity, needing answers. I want to find answers. I need to get Daniel's medical records, understand everything possible, I declared, my voice resolute, yet a weightier thought loomed just on the fringe, waiting to pierce through my resolve. As I stood there, determined to unravel this tapestry of lies, dread squirmed uncomfortably in my chest when I remembered the family reunion scheduled for next month, a gathering where every single relative would gather beneath one roof. So many lives intertwined, one chance to uncover the truth so long buried. But would the weight of our family's history shatter us all, or would we find strength in facing it together? Just then, my phone buzzed insistently in my pocket, snapping me from my thoughts. My pulse quickened as I fished it out. The ominous notification glared at me. A message from the hospital. With trembling hands, I opened the notification, each second stretching like a thin thread threatening to break. And my breath hitched as I read the message, emergency consultation needed. Please come to the office immediately. A cold chill washed over me as fear clawed at my insides. If Daniel had taken a turn for the worse, my heart dropped, dread clawing up my spine like icy fingers. Had I waited too long to dig into the truths buried beneath our family's surface? I shot a horrified look at my parents, who, upon seeing the shock on my face, moved closer, their expressions mirroring my own terror. Let's go, I urged, urgency mingling with the chaos, my heart wild with unknowing. Together we rushed toward the exit where uncertainty laced through the steps, leaving behind more questions than answers, feeling the calamity of a life-altering revelation unraveling just as quickly as it had begun. The next moments, fraught with the swirling shadows of potential loss and the desperate need for truth, awaited us just beyond the doors. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the sterile hospital corridors as we moved closer to the consultation room. My parents flanked me, their hands clutching mine, the warmth contrasting brutally with the cold dread pooling in my stomach. I had never witnessed fear etched so deeply into their faces, and it mirrored my own swirling turmoil. Do you think it's serious? I heard my father murmur, though the question was really directed at the air. My mother squeezed my hand harder, her voice trembling, let's just be prepared for anything. An unexpected jolt of unease twisted in my gut. Prepared for anything? How could we be? Every inkling of hope was being shredded under the weight of anticipated loss that as we approached the office marked only by an unfriendly sign, I found myself on the precipice of panic. My heart was pounding each beat, a loud proclamation of fear and a piercing reminder of everything that now hung delicately in the balance. "Daniel," I whispered, the name a prayer, a plea, a threat of desperation. The consulting room door swung open and a doctor stepped out, her eyes locking onto ours with an intensity that churned my stomach into knots. My breath quickened as she glanced at the chart in her hands before looking back up at us. "I'm Dr. Mendez," she introduced herself, her voice steady despite the storm raging in my mind. "I'm here to discuss Daniel's condition." With so many questions demanding attention, I was filled with an impulse to rush forward, demanding answers and clarity, carving out a path through the haze of fear that threatened to swallow me whole. But I hesitated, each word I might throw at her weighed down by the uncertainty surrounding the situation. I glanced at my parents, their faces pale and taut, and steeled my resolve. Is he okay?" I uttered, the vulnerability in my voice pulling at the depth of my fear. Dr. Mendez exhaled slowly, and for a moment, the world shrank, leaving us in a void where time stood still. "He's stable for now, but we did encounter some complications during the surgery. We need to monitor him closely." Relief flickered within me just as a shadow of dread loomed larger, overshadowing each fragile moment of hope. "What kind of complications?" I pressed, urgency clawing at my throat, pushing out the desperate need to know in grave detail. Dr. Mendez pursed her lips, glancing briefly at her notes. "There were unexpected internal bleeds. It's not uncommon in such procedures, but it increases risk. We'll need to keep him here for a few days for observation." A heartbreaking mixture of hope and despair churned in me. "So there's a chance he can still recover?" "Absolutely, but the next 24 hours will be crucial." Her words lingered in the air, a fragile transparency weaving through the fragile fabric of each second that was to follow. My mother sank against the wall, her hands trembling across her face as silent tears streamed silently down her cheeks. My father remained rooted by my side, his grip tightening as he wrestled with the flood of emotions tumbling through him. A wave of panic crashed through me as I turned to look at my mother. How could I provide comfort when I felt so lost myself? "Mom, he's going to be okay. They're taking care of him." She shook her head, silencing my words as her trembling hands reached for mine. "We can't lose him, we can't lose our boy." For an instant, her pleading eyes glanced toward my father, a fragile connection that only deepened the emotions swirling around us like an impenetrable fog. Through the wave of grief, the contradiction of familial love tangled with pain sparked something inside me, a relentless drive to uncover every hidden truth that lingered in our family's past. Anger surged again, but it was laced with the fear of facing an unknown future. I had to turn this anguish into determination for Daniel's sake. "Let's not lose hope," I insisted, though my own heart struggled with the burden of uncertainty. "We need to make sure Daniel is cared for, and we need to know what we're facing together." The idea of remaining united through this storm brought flickers of warmth to the otherwise darkened space. It became increasingly clear that the answers I sought were not only about our family's hidden ailments but also intertwined with how we banded together when everything felt like it was crumbling apart. As we stood there, unity melding under the weight of our fear, my phone buzzed again, this time with an unfamiliar number. I reluctantly pulled it from my pocket, curiosity intertwining with anxiety. The message that appeared on the screen felt like a sledgehammer crashing through my thoughts. "Your grandfather was diagnosed much later than expected. Our tests show he had a rare genetic condition." The words felt like ice freezing my veins, a chilling reminder that the past was still haunting us. A horrifying thought crept into my mind, unraveling the small strands of strength I had just woven among my parents. What if Daniel's life depended on what I was about to discover? I couldn't afford to hesitate. I would unravel the secrets, no matter the risk. With my heart pounding and a tear forming on the cusp of my lashes, I turned to my parents, searching their eyes with newfound clarity and determination. "I'll figure this out," I promised softly, needing them to know I'd face the storm head-on. But as I spoke, a gnawing sense of dread clung to me. I had no idea what revelations awaited or if I could truly hold my family together while fighting the weight of secrets that resided within our blood. what if digging deeper only exposed wounds far more profound than we were ready to confront? As we stood together in solidarity, my heart trembled at the thought of the shadows still lurking just beyond our reach, waiting to emerge when we least expected it. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh luminescence that felt almost surreal against the backdrop of my parents' silent suffering. Time seemed to stretch, the air thick with unarticulated fears as I absorbed the weight of my own determination. I was teetering on the edge of darkness, desperate to find a thread of light that could guide us through this crisis. "I'll call our family doctor," my father finally said, his voice cracking with the weight of the moment. Maybe they have insights about our family history that could help." "Do it," I replied, my heart throbbing with both gratitude and trepidation. Every step felt precarious, as if my family's fragile unity could splinter at any moment under the pressure of the truth. While he stepped away, I turned to my mother, who remained anchored against the wall, her eyes glazed over with worry. I reached for her, the warmth of my hand against hers igniting a flicker of connection in that tumultuous sea of emotion. "Mom, we need to stay strong. For Daniel." She looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears, but rather than crumbling, there was a flicker of resilience in her gaze. "You're right, honey. We need to be ready for whatever comes next," she whispered, her voice barely a thread above silence. We stood together, a fortress against the encroaching gloom, but just as I felt the walls around us steady, another wave of uncertainty crashed over me, splintering my resolve. Would our family's history haunt Daniel? Would uncovering the secrets bind us closer, or tear us apart? With a shaky breath, I withdrew my phone, fingers hovering hesitantly over the screen, wrestling with the decision to read the rest of that shocking message. Unearthing hidden truths could expose us to vulnerabilities we weren't prepared to face. But suppressing my anxiety only ignited it further. "Who was that?" my mother asked, her gaze sharp with concern, sensing my inner turmoil that I swallowed hard, trying to weigh my words carefully. "It was just some family news. Something about Grandpa's health," I said, feeling dishonest with each syllable that left my mouth. She frowned, her voice betraying her unease. "What do you mean? We've been avoiding that conversation for so long." "If it relates to Daniel, I'll look into it," I promised, knowing this was a half-hearted salve to my own scruples. I couldn't bear to share the full truth just yet. Not while Daniel lay helpless, teetering between life and a more uncertain fate. A faint voice in the distance pulled my attention. An elderly woman, perhaps a fellow family member, sat on a chair nearby. Her hands clasped together, worn and weathered, she offered a small, kind smile. The warmth radiating from her filled the cold room with an unexpected sense of comfort. "Have faith," she said softly, her voice as fragile as the moment. "Miracles happen. You have to believe." "You're right," I responded, though doubt still echoed inside my mind. I squeezed my mother's hand tighter, trying to pull strength from the woman's confidence, as though shared hope could buffer against our fears. Just then, my father returned, his face drawn and serious. "Our doctor suggests we might consider genetic testing. It could help us understand any potential issues that run in the family, especially if it concerns Daniel." He hesitated, searching our faces for reassurances before continuing. "They can get you in as early as tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" I echoed, a worm of anxiety gnawing at my insides. What if we don't get the results in time? What if anything happens to him before we know? "We need to take the first step," my father said firmly, trying to channel the urgency of the situation into a sensible plan. "We can't let fear paralyze us. It's about Daniel now." His words cut through my haze, slicing open a fresh wound of determination. "Well, do it," I agreed, wresting control from the chaos flooding our lives. "I'll be there every step of the way." My mother nodded, her features hardening into the steely resolve I recognized from my childhood, the very courage I admired and often needed. We would face this together, another strand woven into the tapestry of our love, even amidst impending shadows. But as we embraced that fleeting moment of unity, my phone buzzed again, jarring me from my thoughts. The screen illuminated with another chilling message from that unknown number, further entwining my heartache with ominous foreboding. if you don't act fast to uncover the truth about Daniel's case, you may lose him forever. My heart sank as I read those words, suffocating under the weight of my own uncertainty. In that moment, I was confronted with a terrifying reality. The clock was ticking down, not just on Daniel's recovery but also on unearthing secrets that could change everything. As the sobering thought settled in, a sudden dread twisted my stomach. What would I have to sacrifice to protect my brother? And could the truth mend our family or tear it apart even further? With adrenaline surging, I faced my family in that sterile hospital room, knowing deep down that the struggles ahead would demand more than I ever imagined I could give. With a deep breath, I steeled myself for what was to come, but dread dripped into the corners of my resolve, leaving me with one relentless question: would love outlast the secrets we've buried, or would it be our downfall? The hours unfolded like a somber film reel, the stark white walls of the hospital blending into a blur of sterile reflections and muffled conversations. I paced the waiting room with a frenetic energy, my thoughts racing ahead, past the immediate crisis of Daniel's health, spiraling into trepidation over the shadows waiting to be unearthed. Why do they keep us waiting? I muttered under my breath, clutching my phone as if it might emit some comforting magic. Each minute ticked by like an hour, a reminder of our harsh reality. My father sat nearby, tension etched into his features, while my mother watched the news play quietly on a muted screen. The bright images clashed violently with the fearful drumming of my heart. That it's just a precaution, my father finally said, his voice laced with a blend of irritation and fatigue, attempting to mask his own rising worry. Testing can be slow, they have to be thorough. I nodded absently, stifling a surge of frustration. It still feels wrong. Like we're trapped here waiting for someone else to decide our fate. But even as my words left my lips, a glimmer of warmth spread through my chest. The elderly woman from before, with her gentle smile and wise eyes, had wandered into my mind. Was I not also a part of something larger than this momentous tapestry of lives intertwined, bound by love and history? My thoughts shifted to Daniel. The warmth of his laughter had always been a reprieve from our family's storms, the light piercing through the densest of clouds. What if I could find that strength and share it back with him? It was a thought born from desperation, but also shining hope. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, cutting through my contemplation. This time, I clutched it tightly, every pulse of vibration resonating like a drumroll in the pit of my stomach. It was another message: you can't keep the truth from your family forever. He deserves to know who he really is. A wave of nausea crashed over me. Who he really is? I whispered, a shiver racing down my spine, the words hanging heavier than the longest silence. I turned toward my father, expecting to find warmth in his gaze. Instead, I was met with a worried furrow on his brow as he pressed a hand against his own forehead. Were there family secrets looming larger than I feared? Sliding down to the chair beside him, I sought to steady my breath. Dad, is there something we should know? Something about our family, something related to Daniel? For a fleeting moment, he looked as if the weight of his thoughts had just cracked open. I'll tell you later. Let's focus on Daniel. There's just no time for this now, then there may never be. I nearly shouted, the strength of my own conviction surprised me. Forced silence enveloped us, my mother casting nervous glances our way while the influx of emotions kindled an unshakable doubt inside me. All right, my father said, his voice dipped in concern and trepidation. But promise me you won't jump to conclusions before you know the truth. I nodded, each heartbeat echoing against the walls of uncertainty closing in around us. I promise. But those words rang hollow within me, my heart was still racing. I wanted to run, to uncover the secrets my family had buried under layers of fear and silence. But with those secrets came the terrifying awareness of what they might mean for Daniel, for us. As though woven into the fabric of all my fears, the elderly woman's kind smile resurfaced in my mind. Maybe, beneath all this dread, there was still room for hope. What if facing the truth could fortify our love rather than shatter it? The stillness was abruptly shattered by the hospital doors swinging open. A doctor, clad in light blue scrubs, emerged with an aura of gravity. He met our eyes, and before he even spoke, something in his demeanor told me that our lives were on the precipice of change. Are you the family of Daniel? His voice was measured yet soft, a touch of care layered over the professional veneer. Yes, I replied, my heart thrumming louder, a sudden rush of fear sweeping over me. Is he all right? There are things we need to discuss regarding his condition, but I assure you we're doing everything we can. The doctor glanced between my parents and me, his expression shifting into something more congenial. I also wanted to bring up the possibility of that genetic testing we spoke of. What if we don't have time? I interjected, unable to mask the urgency attached to my words. What happens if we don't act? What are we looking at here? The doctor took a deep breath, glancing down before meeting my gaze again. The truth is, the results are crucial for pinpointing the exact treatment. It could ultimately decide how we handle Daniel's care. As his words settled heavy in the air, my heart slowed, fear entwining itself with a stark realization. Time was not just ticking, it felt like sand slipping through our fingers, and Daniel's future was caught within that suffocating flow. In that moment, the weight of my promise danced in my mind, a promise to figure out the family's secrets tangled in our lives before it was too late. Could I intertwine love with truth without tearing apart the very fabric of who we are? As the doctor continued speaking, my visions of dark secrets began swirling with the possibility of illumination, an unwelcome tangle of hope. But just then, as I clung to that flicker of light, my phone buzzed one final time, revealing another message, an unexpected twist that encased my heart in icy dread. If you want to save your brother, you need to act. Time is running out, and the truth will shatter everything you thought you knew. The clock was ticking, and with it came the realization that some truths could indeed change everything. The sterile scent of antiseptic enveloped me, making each breath feel heavy in my chest as the gravity of the doctor's words settled like a weight upon my shoulders. I looked up from my phone, the message buzzing like a storm in my mind. My parents were trying to decipher the doctor's calm yet detached delivery, but I was lost in a whirlpool of dread and terror. Can we start the testing? Please. I blurted out, my voice tinged with desperation. Can we make sure Daniel gets every chance? The doctor, a paragon of composure, nodded slowly. Yes, we can arrange for it immediately. But we must also be prepared. Prepared for what? My father interjected, his voice breaking, brimming with the anxiety that had been simmering beneath his resolute facade. What are you telling us? The doctor glanced at my mother, who was frozen in place, eyes wide and glistening. There may be underlying complications, potential genetic factors leading to serious health issues. His eyes met mine, delivering an unspoken apology wrapped in a coat of professionalism. We need to know everything we can. That I felt time scrape against the edges of my consciousness, each ticking second a fragment of hope or despair that hung in the balance. I fought back the urge to crumble beneath the pressure of it all. So we just wait for answers. My voice wavered, both a question and a plea for mercy. The doctor straightened, unable to mask the somber weight he carried. The tests will provide further clarity, but we are faced with uncertain outcomes. My father's hand slipped into mine, seeking the anchor of reassurance. Then we will be ready, he said firmly. Whatever it is, we can handle it as a family. Right? Yes, I whispered, but as I looked into his eyes, I understood that we all were unmoored, grasping at the fading threads of control in a tempest of unseen possibilities. Time limped forward, and as the doctor trailed away toward the bubble of medical activity, I drove my thoughts back to the secrets lurking just beneath the surface. My heart raced as the weight of unknowing consumed me, and those whispered words from my mystery texter seeped under my skin. The truth will shatter everything you thought you knew. Before I could ruminate, a young nurse approached, her demeanor warm and welcoming. Hey, I just wanted to check in. How are you all doing? Her eyes held a kindness that edged away the icy fear nestled in my heart, if only for a moment. Still waiting to hear back about Daniel, I replied, swallowing hard against the well of emotions threatening to spill over. I'm so sorry. It's tough, I know. I promise you, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. Her offer, simple and profound, lit a flicker of warmth inside me. The little gestures, the moments of human connection, reminded me that amidst turbulence, kindness could still bloom. "Thank you," I managed to say. "It really helps to know we're not alone in this." As the nurse turned to leave, the distant sound of a heart monitor beep resonated through the hallway, each sound punctuating the silence enveloping our family. Suddenly, the air shifted, carrying urgency and echoes of vulnerability that felt raw and exposed. Minutes crawled by, stretching into what felt like an eternity, until finally, an unfamiliar figure stepped through the door. A woman with an air of familiarity, her face partially obscured by an array of shadows cast by the overhead lights. Her presence stirred something deep within me, a pull that defied logic. "Excuse me? Are you looking for someone?" I asked, squinting at her as though I was peering through a fog. She hesitated, taking a step forward. I caught a glimpse of familiar eyes that mirrored not just my own but those of Daniel. "I'm here for Daniel," she said, her voice barely a whisper, weighed down by sadness. "I need to talk to your family." Disbelief swept through me, twisting my gut tight. Who was she? My heart raced, echoing the torrent of questions flooding my mind. "Who are you?" My voice was steadier than I felt that I am. She faltered, tears pooling in her eyes as she turned her head slightly. This moment felt like a crack forming in our perfectly poised world, one that threatened to spill the truths we had avoided for so long. "Just tell us," my mother said, her tone tinged with both fear and an undeniable urge to unearth whatever lay underneath the surface. "What do you want?" Taking a deep breath, she stepped closer, glancing toward the door as if worried someone might overhear. "I'm his sister," she said, her words falling heavy between us. "And if you want to help Daniel, you need to know the truth about our family." Each word was a hammer against the walls of my sanity, and my whole world tilted on its axis, spinning wildly in the shadow of that revelation. In that instant, my promise unraveled, each thread of desire to keep our family together pouring out between my fingers like sand, leaving behind the stark reality of the unexpected rift. "His sister." I echoed, the two words morphing into a cacophony of disbelief, hope, desperation, and something deeper that I couldn't yet understand. The woman's face bore the weight of her secret, an inheritance of hurt sculpted into her features. "I know it's a lot to process, but you all must trust me. Time is running out for Daniel. He deserves to know who he really is." And just like that, I stood on the precipice of unfathomable revelation, terrified of the depths it would plunge us all into. Would this new truth shatter everything I knew or, somehow, bind us tighter against the storms ahead? The answers thrummed insistently within me, a torrent, and yet, we were still desperately waiting for the storm's eye to reveal the sky beyond. I stepped forward, reeling from the revelation that now hung between us like a heavy fog. "His sister." I repeated, my voice tremulous, but the gravity of the moment forced the question from my lips. "How could you be his sister?" The pain and confusion coursing through me threatened to topple my fragile composure. My parents were silent, their eyes riveted on the woman. Had they known? Bile rose in my throat as dread swallowed the last slivers of hope. "That I am Sarah," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "Daniel and I were separated when we were young. You don't know me, Booty. Need you to listen." She hesitated, tears brimming in her eyes, and for a fleeting moment, I could see glimpses of family resemblance, the shape of her jaw, the arch of her brow, the depth of sorrow that mirrored my own. "Why now?" I demanded, grappling with the storm of emotions crashing over me. "Why come here now? What could possibly justify keeping this from him?" Each word carried the burden of questions and a dawning realization that the walls built around our family may have held darker truths beneath. Her voice broke, trembling with the weight of her past. "Because he's sick. There are things you don't now think that could save his life. Things I should have revealed long ago, but I didn't know until recently. I had to come. I had to find you." Her confession sent a tremor of disbelief coursing through me, unearthing the very essence of our family's identity, a fracture line that had gone unnoticed, now exposed and raw. That moment, my mother took a shaky step forward, her brow furrowed with confusion. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice tinged with a mix of fear and disbelief. I could sense the impending chaos as she braced for the onslaught of answers we had long evaded. That I am his sister, she tried again, stepping closer, her vulnerability becoming palpable. "I'm from the same mother. I thought I'd lost him. But when I heard about the accident, I felt compelled to come here to find him and to warn you, to tell you everything." "What do you mean, warn us?" My father's voice, usually a bastion of strength, cracked beneath the strain. "What can you possibly know that would change anything? If you don't understand his medical history, you may lose him. There are hereditary conditions on our mother's side that could put him at greater risk. I don't want you to think you can ignore this or hide it. You have to know." The words hung heavy in the air, and with each sentence she uttered, the fragile landscape of our family began to shift. I felt adrift, my thoughts swirling in the tempest of confusion. My heart raced at the implications. Daniel had always been the one to protect me, to hold me steady when the storms of our lives threatened to swallow us whole. But where had our parents been? Why hadn't they told me? "Tell me more," I urged, desperate for clarity to anchor my bewilderment. I needed to find solid ground amidst the chaos. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Our mother struggled with a genetic illness, one that could manifest in various ways. It didn't surface until much later in life. I'm terrified Daniel could be facing the same battles, and it's time he learns the truth. The sooner he knows, the more we can help him fight." Hope flickered, a thin beam cutting through the murky waters of despair. This could save him," I whispered, feeling the delicate nature of the moment. "Yes," Sarah affirmed, her voice getting stronger, bolder with conviction. "But it should have been our parents who told you. I've spent my life searching for him. We never had the luxury of knowing what our shared legacy was, but now time is running out." With every word, her truth unfolded like a map leading to the core of who we were, a tangled web of heartbreak, loss, and stolen time. My heart ached at the thought of Daniel's suffering for lack of knowledge, and I felt an unexpected kinship with this stranger who shared his blood. "Where do we go from here?" I asked, looking to my parents. Their expressions mirrored my own turmoil, and their silence stunned me. I realized they were grappling with feelings of shame and confusion, voices long silenced, burdened under the weight of secrets they hadn't known how to voice. The air crackled as the enormity of what had been hidden began to settle. "That we have to get Daniel's medical records," I declared with new certainty. "We need to prepare for whatever comes next." Just as I spoke, my phone buzzed again, this time, indicating an incoming call marked as unknown. I felt a shiver cascade through my body. "I need to get this," I said, moving away from the group, both hopeful and apprehensive. I pressed accept, barely able to keep my voice steady. "Hello. Is this the family of Daniel Hastings?" The voice on the other end felt eerily familiar, and it sent a chill sliding down my spine. Yes, it is. "Who is this?" "This is Dr. Mendez. There's important information regarding Daniel, and you'll need to discuss it with your family." The tone was matter-of-fact yet laden with concern. "Is he okay?" I urged, panic flooding through me. "Let me explain. You need to come back to the hospital as soon as possible. There's something else that's come to light in connection with his condition. We believe it's related to what we've just discussed." "This connection, it's about our family history," I said, my heart racing. "Exactly. It's urgent," she replied. I nodded, understanding then how intertwined our paths had become in this strange moment of convergence. "All right, well, be there," I promised, hanging up with a quick glance back to my parents. They looked at me, expressions a mixture of concern and anticipation, and I felt the weight of our shared journey growing even heavier. "We need to go back to the hospital. There's more we need to uncover together," I said firmly. "Let's get Daniel's records and fight for him," my mother declared, her eyes now shining with a fierce determination echoing my own. As we made our way back to the hospital, Sarah at our side, a gust of hope surged within me. In the shadows, I could still feel the dark tendrils of our secret stretching behind, but we began to understand that together, as a family bound by the inexplicable force of love and shared history, could face even the most daunting truths. The road ahead would undoubtedly be fraught with pain, but it also held the potential for healing, redemption, and perhaps even reconnection with the brother I refused to lose. By the time we stepped through the hospital's glimmering entrance once more, I felt the weight of our collective heartbeats echoing our Resiliencia symphony of determination that would see us through. As we approached the doctor's office, I turned to Sarah, the sister I had just met through the fissures of our fragmented family. "Thank you for coming," I said earnestly. And in that moment, as our eyes met, I knew we were no longer just a group. We were becoming a force. The truth would feel like a hammer upon our souls, but it had the potential to shatter the walls around our hearts, leaving behind the light of forgiveness, hope, and love. We were in this together. As we waited outside the consultation room, the silence pressed against us, the anticipation woven with a bright thread of hope. And in that stillness, I couldn't help but whisper softly, "We will be okay, Daniel. We will be okay. No matter what." And somewhere in the depths of that hushed promise, I felt the stirrings of a bond that would guide us home. If love was worth anything, then together we would forge an unbreakable path through the shadows. We would emerge stronger, reunified under the weight of the past and ready to face whatever came next. Because in the end, the truth and our relentless pursuit of each other could only lead us to one thing, a heart that dared to love fully, no matter the cost. And that, I knew, was worth fighting for.